Welcome. We are going to have a restorative class today. For some reason, I'm having trouble talking, so please excuse me. These are poses, some of them that we have done before, and maybe I'll just give a little bit more detailed instructions as to how to come into the pose, how to come out of the pose. So as we sit here in our easy seated pose, let's bring our attention to ourselves inside. So your eyes are closed. You're sitting with your legs just gently crossed at the shin. Your feet are kind of on their edge, rooting down into the earth. Your sitting bone is the third part of that strong foundation. And even in these restorative poses, we want to sit tall so that we can get that extension through the spine, up through toward the top of the head, and perhaps you even feel as though there is a lift from above your head. You're sitting tall. And now change that attention from your posture to your breath. And for right now, we are only observing the breath. We're making no changes. Observe as the breath comes in through your nose. Maybe there's a temperature, cool, warm. Perhaps you can feel the breath as it comes toward the back of your throat. And as you inhale, perhaps you notice either a chest that lifts and expands, or maybe there's probably not with a regular breath, any belly breathing. Not yet anyway. And then follow that same breath back out. Feel if there's a difference in temperature. Notice if there are changes in your posture. Maybe what happens to your chest. And breathing out through the nose, perhaps that air feels warmer. So we're breathing in and out, just observing. And the longer you breathe here, you may notice that your breaths become longer. You may notice that they become more even. You may notice that you can feel yourself grounding into your blankets. And then just take a scan through your body. See if there's someplace that maybe today is a little more tight, a little bit ouchy, pinchy. Maybe there's a dull ache. Just whatever you happen to notice. I just noticed that I had a noise, a pop in my neck as I went from one side over to the other. So maybe I'm carrying some tension there in my neck, my shoulders, perhaps all the way even up to where those muscles attach to my skull. Maybe I need to think about releasing and relaxing there today. And then bring all of those thoughts back into an observation of you and your space on the mat. And then bow your head, open your eyes. And the first pose that we're going to do sounds kind of easy, and I'm hoping it will be. We're going to use that to open our back hamstrings. So to begin with, find a wall. I'm going to use this one. And just because it's sturdy, these kind of move and sway. So you're coming up, and I'm hoping if I've measured right, that you'll still see my head on camera. If not, just listen to my voice. And we come up to standing. I came up through an Uttanasana, a forward fold. And that's really what we're going to do right here on the wall. So let me take my blankets and move them out of my way. And I'm going to bring this chair over here just for demonstration purposes. Some of you may want it, some of you may not. Totally up to you. But we're going to have our feet just a little bit wider than hips distance, maybe a foot, foot and a half apart instead of the usual 6 inches. And we're going to be about the same distance away from the wall. So bring your bottom back and kind of work on fine-tuning that, making sure that your feet are wide enough to support you and that you've got your bottom on the wall. And now I want you to, we talk about engaging your quads. We're going to do that by lifting our knees. We do that all the time. So even in this restorative pose, we're bringing some action into the legs. And this is going to stabilize your knees. Just feel. You can't, I don't think you'll be able to move that, that kneecap anywhere. It's lifting, legs are long and straight. And now let's bring our hands up. Clasp, if you can, one hand against the opposite elbow. And as we come out, we're just coming down slowly. And you have, some of you, and you can stack this, put as many things on this chair as you want. But if your hamstrings are really tight, this may be exactly where you need to stay. Don't even try to go down any further, so that your head is supported. You've got a nice long back. Perhaps you can feel that extension through your back. And please keep those knees lifted. Keep those quadriceps engaged, because there's a theory that works pretty well that says the opposite muscles relax in opposition to the other one contracting. So right now we are contracting and innervation. We're contracting our hamstrings. We're pulling them up. We're engaging those hamstrings and lifting our knees. Because we're doing that, it is a signal to the hamstrings, on which are those muscles that attach to close to your sitting bones and are what kind of opposes the quadricep. That muscle is given permission to relax. And that's what we want it to do, to relax. So if you are happy with this location, with a chair, having your head propped on on some soft blankets, and you're feeling a nice stretch, just that works perfect. If you'd like to try to go a little further, we started out with our hands just grasping our opposite elbows. Bring that forward fold on down and let the weight of your head, just let it hang there. You're just doing a wall hang. And we're only going to be here for like a minute, because we don't need to stay longer than that. But keep on reminding yourselves that you need to keep those knees engaged in order to give hamstrings an opportunity to relax and extend. Knees lifting, quadriceps engaged. And then to come out, bring your hands to your shins, reach your head forward, and then just kind of walk up your legs until you're upright. And this really works with either on the chair or with your head just hanging down. And then stay here for a little while because we don't want anybody to get dizzy or lightheaded. And this just is a nice place to rest. So if neither the chair nor just hanging on the wall was anything that you wanted to do for, or it caused discomfort, we're going to take this chair and I'm going to turn it around like this. Now, this can be your kitchen sink, and you can just put your hands, or for these purposes, put your hands right there on the chair, and we're going to walk back until we can get our head between our biceps. And then we're going to roll our biceps up so that our shoulder blades can lay against our back on either side of our spine. And you're going to have to pull your little belly up. Unless you're laying on that kitchen counter, if that's the right size, then you can be supported however far you want to reach across that counter. And we're just going to just stay here for a little bit, not too long, because it kind of gets to your shoulders sometimes if you're just suspended here. And to come out of this, you bend your knees and you walk forward. And we've done this a lot, and I'll use my wall here. Pardon my backside. But we did that before in an more active pose when we used just our fingertips against the wall. But here, just use that whole hand and maybe start up, and then as you walk back, drop those hands down until you've got that nice square box. And then again, press into your heels, try to get that long extension in your back. Bend your knees and walk forward. So all of those variations of basically an uttanasana, a forward fold, can be used in a restorative manner. The wall is holding you up in that wall-supported forward fold, uttanasana, and either hanging just head down using that weight. All of these keep that knee stable and that focus on active hamstrings so that we can relax and extend this back. These are not hamstrings. These are quads. These are hamstrings. Okay. All right. And we're moving around a little bit more perhaps in this pose or in this practice than we do in a lot of restorative practices. But we're moving next to one of your favorites. We're going to try it in two different ways as well. And you can choose either one. They both work just fine. And we're going to work on legs up the wall. And this can be just a way to hang out for however long you want, or you can stay in this pose up to 20 minutes and you're still getting great benefit. So let's start it the way that we have been doing it in some of our other classes. And I've lost my height here, so I'm going to come back here so you can see me better. Okay. And there's an easy way to get up and get your legs up the wall, and then there's a harder way. So let's just kind of all do it together. So we're sitting next to our wall, and we're going to bring our hips so that our knees are on the ground and our hips are pretty close to that wall. And then we're going to just stretch out that arm on the ground and use that for a little headrest for a moment. If I've disappeared from view, I'm sorry. And then you're going to roll over on your back and your feet are going to go up. And the closer you are to the wall, the more of an extension there's going to be on your back hamstrings. So you can manipulate the intensity of a leg up the wall stretch by determining how far or how close you want to be to the wall. And like we said, you can be here for a minute. And sometimes this is a nice way to wait for the class to begin. Just find this pose and feel your back extending and stretching, but totally supported as your legs are lifted. In Sanskrit, this pose translates as draining the lake. And that's because primarily this pose allows the lymphatic system to drain. But it's good for almost every other system as well. And then feel yourself softening, relaxing into your arms or everything, either the wall or the mat beneath you is supporting you. So there is no need for physical activity. And we'll stay here just let's try 5 more breaths. Nice, long, deep inhales. Hold it at the top for just a heartbeat, and then exhale through the nose all the way out. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. Inhaling, exhaling. One more deep breath. Exhale everything out. And return to regular breath. Give yourself a time to just notice the difference in how those 2 different breaths affect your body. And then bring your knees to your chest. Roll over to your side. Use that arm again as a pillow. And then gently push yourself back up into a seated pose. Now, the other way that we can do this pose, and I'm just going to grab a bolster, but you may or may not want it that high. So maybe blankets would work just as well. And then, so I don't, I'm going to have to, I think it'll be okay. I'm going to come up and I'm going to sit on one side of this bolster, or so if you're trying this, you're going to have your hips on the bolster and your back is going to be on the floor and your legs are going to be up the wall. And this is an elevated Viparita Karani. And then we do the same thing. We work to get our bottom as close to the wall as we can make it. And then we lay down and roll over. And it may take a little work. Right now I'm having trouble with hair. So I'm going to press in just a little bit and move that bolster where it needs to be on my back to support my lower back and allow my legs to be up. My shoulders are resting on the ground. And if this is the first time that you have used and elevated your hips, I would probably start out with maybe just one blanket. And if that feels good, maybe the next time I would add a second blanket. And that way you can get used to the height gradually. And it kind of depends on how much weight, because there will be a little bit of extra weight in your shoulders that you're comfortable with. And we're just playing with this pose right now. So we'll roll over, be careful, off the bolster, and come back to sitting. The easiest way, and maybe this should have been the first part of this demonstration, is to just have this smaller fold. That's plenty wide. That's about the same width of the bolster. And you can start with one and then move up and have more. Your choice. And I think the next pose that we're going to try, and again, these you can stay in like we did here, just a few minutes. If you like this routine and you want to stay longer, just hit the pause button here. Hang out as long as you want, and then we'll move on to a supported child's pose. And I'm going to prep my mat just a little bit because I end up with bony knees. So I like having a blanket on my mat just to kind of cushion my knees and the tops of my feet. All right. In between, I'm putting this bolster. And depending on how easy it is for you to be in this child's pose with bent legs, you may need a high bolster. So you kind of check it out and see what's going to work for you. If your knees aren't happy being bent this much, then do what we've done before and get that blanket and pull it into the back of the knee crease, and maybe roll just kind of. You can use a blanket like this, or you could use just a rolled up hand towel. Would be, because it's just needs to go into that crease of the knee, just to give it some support as you open the knee. Sometimes that that calf needs to be rolled to the outside so you have more room for the knee to bend. And then all we're going to do is reach out and rest on this bolster. I'm going to bring one of those blankets back. And support your belly by bringing the bolster back into that space in between your legs, and rest your belly on the bolster. Maybe your head can go with a little bit of a hand pillow here and hold your head. Or maybe you can just lay with your head first on one side or on the other side. Be mindful of how your neck feels. And we'll just lie here for a few minutes. Well, let's try that breathing technique again, because it's interesting to see how your belly, how it feels to breathe in a prone position. So let's take 5 nice full breaths here. Breathing in Inhaling as much as you can, exhaling everything out. 4 more breaths. Three more breaths. Two more breaths. One more long breath. And then bring your head, if it isn't already, so that your neck is lined up with your spine. Your hands are on either side of the bolster, and then push down to come up. And finally, our Shavasana. And we're going to make this just a little bit more luxurious than most Shavasanas. So have your headrest. If you need to, open your blanket so that your hands and arms don't touch the floor, so it's a little bit warmer. Lie down, beginning just all kind of like a Tadasana on the ground, where your legs are together, your toes are touching, your hands are by your side. And if you were to peek, your nose is in line with your toes, nice and straight. And then take a nice deep breath. And then on the inhale, let your feet just flop out to the side. Let your hands palm up, rest and open. And sometimes it helps just to move those shoulder blades in to support your chest. And allow your back to find those 3 magic curves: the lumbar curve, thoracic curve, cervical curve. Breathing in, breathing out, nothing to do, nowhere to be. And again, you can stay here as long as you want. It's a beautiful meditative position where you can clear your mind, focus on your breath, and leave any of your cares to be dealt with when you're ready. So breathing in, breathing out. Again, if you want to stay here, you're welcome to for as long as you need. And I will say namaste. Otherwise, if you want to come out, then gently bring movement back to your hands and your fingers, your toes. Bring your awareness back to your surroundings. And you've worked hard to achieve this level of relaxation, both mental relaxation, physical relaxation, and perhaps a spiritual regeneration. So no fast moves. And when you are aware enough, gently roll over to your side. Maybe using your arm as a pillow. And then as you're ready, press down into your hands to come up to sitting. And I bring my hands into heart center, palms reaching palms, thumbs resting against my sternum, as I acknowledge the light in you Namaste. I don't know if I'll